And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another segment of Cross- Crossroads. Um, we're supposed to be having a Rosalyn Palmer on today. We're just waiting for her, and hopefully she will come on. And we have tried contacting her, uh, but anyway, I hope everybody is well, and hope everybody's doing okay. And yeah. Um, what you've been up to. Tell me what you've been doing. Yeah, leave me a message. So anyway, 14th of February very soon. And are you ready for um, Valentine's Day? Have you got your card? Got your boyfriend or got your husband a card? Um, what do you want to buy? What do you want from your boyfriend or your husband? Tell me. Um, Also, kind of like, let me know what you think, what you're doing. In the meantime, guys, while everybody's waiting, I'm going to put a video on and let you all watch a video. And yeah, enjoy the video, and be back after this. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Are you coming on today?
Yeah, I can't get in. I'm trying to get in because it keeps asking me to put a password in for my Google account or for any of my accounts. And for
Okay.
some reason, it's not playing.
Do you want me to hang around, or do you want to make another date?
Say again?
Do you want me to hang around, or do you want me to make another date?
Well, yeah, I've been trying to get in for the last 5 minutes, and I was just about to give up, to be honest. So shall we do another time? Sorry about this.
Right. Okay.
I can literally show you. I'm there on the thing with the duck's head and the stream yard or whatever they call it. Yeah, stream yard. It's just not letting me in, and I've tried several
Okay.
approaches.
Right. Okay then.
Continue with YouTube. Let me see if I can do it with YouTube.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm still on here.
Times and gracious.
And you've made some drastic changes, obviously,
Yeah.
since then. Tell me, how has your diet changed, for instance?
Oh, the diet. Oh, gosh, I'm not used to the diet. I wake up in the mornings and kind of like having different kinds of foods. Like we can have like one minute we can have a porridge or Weetabix in the morning. And then it goes on to like dinner time where we can have like pasta. I hated pasta at first, but no, we're getting used to it. It was just a different kinds of foods.
And was it true that your favourite treat was a kebab, and now it's what?
Now my favourite treat now is, oh, it's got to be cockles and mussels.
Alive, oh.
I love seafood.
Me too.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it that abuse that you were getting that made you decide that you were going to change your lives?
No. Since January, and Michelle's lost. Been out for dinner, and that's healthy. You know what I mean? So.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a blood, gonna drown a mind. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. This is me.
Okay then. Good, good, good. That was a while back now, a couple few years ago. In the meantime, we've got a guest today, and we'll be to Rosalyn in a minute after this one. Thank you.
And don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm,
2 minutes, okay?
there's a
2 minutes.
golden sky, and sweet is the song of your lark. When you walk through the storm, hold your head up high. Don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky, and as sweet is the song of the lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. When you walk through the storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky, and sweet is the song of your lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. And you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
That's. I tell you what, that was a shame. I love that song, and hopefully they'll do a statue for him, and we can all remember him from that. Okay, we got Roslyn on. Hello, how are you? You all right?
Good, thank you. Sorry it took me a little while to get in.
No, no, you're okay. We have problems. We have problems all the time. People getting on things, so you know, don't worry about it. We get it all the time. And I invited you on because I wanted to talk about what you do. So can you tell everybody what you do, and tell all my audience what you do, and We'll take it from there.
So I'm an emotional well-being expert, really. I'm a, beyond a mindset coach. I'm actually a transformational therapist and coach. I'm trained in a modality called rapid transformational therapy, which itself combines clinical hypnotherapy, NLP, psychotherapy, and CBT. And I'm
Right.
also an NLP based coach. So lots of titles. But basically, I help people with either their mental health and well-being, or with coaching them to have better lives, more joy, more balance. And I do that because obviously I'm trained in these modalities, but I'm also an award winning author, best selling author. I've got my own podcast. I've got a monthly newspaper column, and I'm very in demand for guests on podcasts and writing.
Mm,
My background is PR and marketing. So I had a change of career 6 years ago in my 50s. And my background in PR and marketing means that I can communicate the things that we're
mm,
talking about now, Steve.
mm.
And
Yeah.
also my own background, which you might want to go into more, my own life story, if you like, is that I've come through a lot of adversity. I've come through a lot of challenges, both physical and emotional. And so I'm very, very able to really relate to people who are maybe going through difficulties themselves. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not just that I've studied and I've got the certificates on the wall and I understand how to do it, but I can really walk in a lot of people's shoes. Funny enough, walk on. I know what it feels like to often
Yeah.
be in those
Yeah.
difficult places. And so I think it makes me a very compassionate therapist and coach.
Well, I think that's it, isn't it? We can all go to college, we can all go to university, and we can talk our heads off and get all these qualifications. But I believe that if you haven't been through those experiences, you don't know how that person is dealing. Dealing, feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll always say to people, I've walked in your shoes, not with everything, clearly, but I know what it feels like to go through the dark night of the soul. I know what it feels like to face a critical illness. I came through cancer 16 years ago. I know what it feels like to feel like you're losing everything. I've been through two divorces and massive financial loss.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to feel your world is ending. I've had to watch my mum die of pancreatic cancer and my dad have a stroke and then die.
Yeah.
I've been
That's
through a
why.
lot of
Yeah.
loss, you know?
And that's why I brought you on because my thing is really is about mental health, and I don't know if you know about me, but it's about mental health. Um, it's about life generally. I don't want to go around the bush and go to people about medical terms. I'm not interested in all that. Like, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want I when I started last July doing this, it was mainly for people who were lonely and who were in their homes on their own, and we started doing that, and we just built it up, and now, I don't know why, but it's gone off to
Yeah.
to the universe. But we can all talk medical terms. It's like going to the doctor and say, "Hey, doctor, I've got this problem," and he said, "Yeah, you only got a bit of a cold." But how do they know really? I know you got
Mm.
sniffles, but how do they know if you got mental illness? How do they know?
Well, I think you're right. And of course, look, therapists and doctors, they're trained to help people. And of course, I've dealt with some issues, Steve, I'll be honest. When I first graduated as a therapist, my very first client was a guy for erectile dysfunction. Now, I've never had erectile dysfunction, clearly. I've never been there. But I understood the distress he was going through. I
Yeah,
understood how this was really affecting his life and his joy and his relationship. So I think that's the important part of it. That there but for the grace of God go I, and I really have been there. I
Mm.
dealt with a lot of girls who have anorexia, and I had bulimia for years. I lived this very seemingly glamorous life back in the 90s when I lived in London and I had a big house and I worked in PR and I had my own PR company. And, you know, from the outside, it kind of looked like it was all going on, a bit like when some of us look at celebrities and people and we think, oh, it must be so great for them. Well, no, you know, because at the end of the day, they're human beings. And I
Mm.
was pretty much hanging on by my fingernails, to be
Mm.
honest, a lot of the time. And I found it very, 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 you know, difficult to come through that. So there was some things I did that were really great. I did go and have therapy. I had quite a few different types of therapy. I ate well. I really tried to look after myself in all that way. I gave exercise, etc., massage. But then there were a lot of things I did really badly because I didn't know any better. I was bulimic. You know, that's like Princess Diana had. So you know, you eat a lot, but then you throw up. I was taking sleeping tablets. There was a time I was on antidepressants. I lived in that world where there was a lot of whining and dining, and so I probably drank too much. You know, so there were a lot of not great things I was doing, and I was trying to balance it all the time, like a seesaw. I'm like this, I'm like that, and I thought that I was getting it right, but I had a doctor who said to me, everything you're doing is a bit like a sticking plaster, you know, it's just kind of holding you together.
Mm.
And then I thought I'd kind of won the lottery, that I managed to sell my business at 40 and I moved overseas to live in the Bahamas. I mean, who wouldn't go? My goodness, look at that. She did that and now she's living in the Bahamas.
That's what I was going to ask. Oh,
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask you this. I've got a piece of paper down here. I've got everything to ask you, but what usually happens? I've gone out of about your book and everything else like that. But why did you do that? Because you sold your business,
yes.
then all of a sudden you got on a plane and you just moved out
No,
of the.
well, no, it wasn't really that. I know it must look like that, but it truly wasn't. So my first husband, and I have been divorced twice. So
All right.
my first husband, and we were married a long time. I was married for 18 years. He was from the Bahamas, but his family had moved there in the 60s. So there's a lot of what they call expats, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
people who aren't from there originally. And his father had moved there in the 60s. So he'd pretty much grown up there. And we used to visit all the time. Who wouldn't? And coincidentally, the year that we sold the business, and we were literally going, "What now?" And I was on my knees, really. You know, it's hard work when you sell a business and get through it and everything. And his father died. His father unexpectedly died of a heart attack, and he had a massive business out there. So we really just went out there temporarily, if you like, to sort that business out, to sort ourselves out. We'd got kids, just to really say what next. And what was supposed to be a few months turned into several years. And they weren't actually that much fun, a lot of them. I mean, I know I'm not going to get a lot of sympathy here for the I had a terrible time in the Bahamas. I get that. But what people don't realise is it's real life. Every
Yeah.
day is real life. And when you're dealing with bereavement, and then the kids were unsettled, I was unsettled. It's a foreign country, really, to us. And my ex really didn't cope very well with hindsight. And in a very short period of time, it all kind of fell apart, really. We moved to an island and we rented a farm, but a hurricane pretty much destroyed everything we had. My father had a stroke back in England on my birthday, and I ended up flying backwards and forwards. He then got really clinically depressed and actually tried to kill himself, which I kept secret from people because the family didn't want people to know. I was not in a good place. My ex wasn't in a good place. Then I developed breast cancer. And then 6 months later, when I'm just coming through that, we find out my mum's got terminal pancreatic cancer back in
Mm.
England again.
Oh no.
And I literally spent 2 years where all I did was go to hospital visits for my cancer, for my mum's cancer, for my dad's stroke and depression. Um, I'm 4,500 miles apart, and I'm trying to be a mum to smallish kids. My ex really isn't coping very well. And I then all the time kept thinking, at least we've got the money in the bank, at least we've got the money in the bank. And then I discovered we didn't have the money in the bank because of a whole series of bad investments. So from leaving, going, yes, I pulled it off and I'm going to live in the Bahamas, I came back several years later, a single unemployed mother, just in time to see my mum die and to carry on with my own cancer treatment and to help my dad, who was, really depressed and still affected by the stroke. I was jobless. I went back to live in Nottingham. I'd not lived there for 25 years. I think we can safely say this was not a good time in my life.
No, no. I'm so sorry about that. I really am.
Well, I think, there's a great poem, strong trees do not grow with ease, the stronger the tree, the stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. And I've got a very good spiritual side to me, and it's been incredibly humbling, that journey. And what it's meant is I've met some really incredible people. I mean, when I got myself back together again, which I did, I then worked for a training and development company. And then after that, I felt I needed to, and I
Mm.
remarried. I felt I wanted to give something back. And I became head of marketing and communications for an international charity and for the leprosy mission. Now, people with leprosy are arguably the most persecuted, marginalized, discriminated against people in the world because even somewhere like India, where you have the caste system,
Mm.
the, the people with leprosy are below what they call the untouchables. I mean, I've stood in an underpass in Mumbai with 6 lanes of traffic going above my head, where people live under tarpaulin, under the underpass, and they've got no fingers because they've got leprosy, they can't walk, and that was the charity I worked for. So for nearly 5 years, I went to Africa, I went to India, I went to Asia, and we, you know, boy, does that put your life into perspective, when you're stood
Mm.
there or when you're in an African village and people have got, when I say nothing, I mean nothing, maybe a bowl to eat from. And my being broken, I think my having everything taken away just meant that I was able to be totally compassionate and with these people. And actually, I see that as an incredible blessing, Steve.
Mm. Are you spiritual?
Yes.
Are you a Christian then, are you?
Well, I've had a very interesting relationship with religion, Steve. I mean, when I was head of marketing for the leprosy mission, it is a Christian charity.
It
So,
is, yeah, because our church supports it.
yes. And
Yeah.
I had 2 trips with Anne Widdecombe. So I went to Ethiopia with Anne Widdecombe and I went to Mozambique with Anne Widdecombe. And I know Anne Widdecombe really well. So I've sat evenings discussing, Christianity under the stars in Ethiopia with Anne. I, by upbringing, by inclination, and by what makes me comfortable, I'm a Christian, but I think I'm a spiritualist in a much wider sense of the word. I had times in my life when I really rejected traditional religion. I don't tend to be a practicing Christian in so much as go to church. When I was in the Bahamas, it was new. It was new church. It was, kind of evangelical. I became a born again Christian.
Mm.
I kind of rejected that. Um, I believe in, I don't believe in one God anymore. And I believe there is something greater than all of us. I believe in a spiritualism beyond all of us, but I don't think I any longer give it a particular label. But that's not to say I wouldn't respect anybody else who does.
Mm. No, no, it totally. I think we got when we go through like I've been in kind of like I tried committing suicide. I don't know if you read my story, but I've committed suicide. I've been I've had a few marriages and stuff, and and it's not nice, is it? It's not nice when marriages end, and I remember when my first wife died, and in a car crash, we was coming back from holiday, and she died in a car crash, and that really kind of like sent me right over the top.
Of course, that terrible trauma it would
It
do.
is, isn't it? That
You
sends you
had
over the
your
top.
future removed at that time,
Oh
having
yeah,
not
yeah,
just your existence in that moment, but having been divorced twice and I've not had what you've had, that's a truly challenging experience for you.
yeah, yeah,
But divorce takes away what you'd hoped for the future. I mean, I didn't stand at the altar at either of my marriages not truly believing in those words. I believed in those words. I
yeah.
really thought we were going to be together forever. And when it didn't happen, I felt bereaved of my future. And I also felt like a failure. I see it in very different light now.
Yeah.
I have so much more compassion for me and for people who that path isn't easy, and of course that's what I do. I'm a therapist and
Mm.
I'm a coach, and I help people through these difficult situations. But for you, how did you get through the death of your wife then, Steve?
Well, I went down a way, a bad way. I was really bad. I kind of like tried committing suicide. Um, I- then I was sent to a psychiatric unit where, a lot of people, there's a lot of stigma out there when people say, oh, you went to a psychiatric unit, you're a loony. But it wasn't like that at all. It was nothing. It was just, it was okay. But when I went there, I was in a right mess, and they ended up taking my shoelaces away. They put me on antidepressants. After a while, I kind of sorted myself out, and I was allowed home, and I just got in, and I had to build my life up again. And the trouble is, my thing is that yes, in life we all can fall down, but we've got to get back up again, brush ourselves off, and say today is going to be a brand new day.
That's right, and of course it can be. I mean, I wrote, as you know, you've got some notes. My book is called Reset, because there's many days I felt, oh, if only I could hit a reset button on my life, on
Yeah,
me. I
yeah.
wish there was a button I could hit.
I was going. You
Yeah.
keep on going over my notes, you do. Can you see my notes? That's what my next step was to ask you about your book, because yes, you did, because there in your book you got kind of like your life experiences really, in your book, and it's reset. What was the meaning from that then to write that sort of book?
So a few years ago, well, I trained as a therapist and coach, well, therapist first of all, 6 years ago nearly. And because of my background probably in communications, I found I was a natural person to kind of go on the local radio or talk to people. And after I went on the local radio, they said, "Would you like to be a host?"
Oh,
You're so compelling at this. Would you like to be a host? I was like, "Oh, yeah, why not?" And I fell into that. And then every time I would tell my story or share personal experience, people would say to me, you should write a book. That could be really inspiring for other people to know that
mm,
you can come through all of these difficult times. And when enough people tell enough times, you start to think, oh, maybe I should. And so then I signed up to write a book, and then I was absolutely terrified and thought, oh my God, I don't want to do this. And what I realized was, although I'm very seemingly outgoing, and of course I have a background in PR and marketing, on the whole, I was the power behind the throne. I was like the
mm.
Wizard of Oz. I was the one behind the curtain, cranking, cranking the wheel. I wasn't the one out there, in the spotlight. And suddenly being in the spotlight, and particularly writing such a a vulnerable book, writing a book about, yeah, these were the things I came through. It was terrifying. I mean, I really, really took it hard. The weekend before the book came out, I literally spent the whole weekend in my pajamas crying, going, please, can we not do this? I feel so exposed. And I've read Brené Brown, Staring Greatly, and I know that vulnerability is really strong. But when you're there and you're suddenly having to do it or say it, and you feel that people are going to judge you, it was really, really quite tricky, to be honest.
Mm.
So the book is semi-autobiographical in so much as I do talk about a lot of these things in my life and kind of how I came through, some good, some bad. Some of it was muddling on through without any real help or guidance, and others were, and I did some really great things, and this is what worked for
Mm.
me.
Mm.
And then at the end of each chapter, wearing my therapist and coach hat, I then go, so if you're going through this now, here's some compassionate yet
Yeah, yeah.
expert advice as to maybe, so it's called reset and then a blueprint for a better life.
All right.
So there's the kind of, here's how I did it, good and bad, but here's how you could do it, maybe in a better, nicer, more elegant, more supported way based on my experience and based on my knowledge. And so that does seem quite a winning combination, really. I've never written a book before, so I didn't really have a, I didn't really know. I just wrote, that seemed the right book to write, and somehow that seems the right book. People ring me all the time and say, oh, it really spoke to me. It really
Mm.
spoke to me. It was like you were
Mm.
looking over my shoulder. So I think it's good in that respect. I'm very proud of it, really.
Yeah, yeah. I just, I think sometimes we need to kind of like reassess our life. We need to reset and say, right, okay, this has happened, okay. And sometimes it's good to like have a diary or something and put it all down. And then sometimes then you can kind of say, right, let's move forward.
Exactly.
Don't look
And I know
back, just
it's
move
not
forward.
always easy. And I know often you move forward and, it's the two steps forward and one back, or sometimes it feels like one forward and two.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And there's that Chinese proverb, what is it? I think, like, fall down 9 times, get up 10.
That's
Um,
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I know it's hard, and it's hard, Steve, when you're
yeah,
there and when you have fallen down and when you've fallen off the wagon or whatever it is you're trying to do
yeah, yeah.
to be better, to be healthier, to be happier, and it's all gone wrong again, or life
Mm,
thrown one more curveball at you. And
mm,
I want to be that person to people to say, it is possible. It is possible. In that 2 year period, I went through all that stuff, mum's cancer, the cancer I had, dad's stroke, financial loss, loss of my marriage, loss of my identity, loss of my home. I went through all of that and I came through. And then years later, when I was married again, and I thought, you know, come through it, and I'm working for the charity. I went through a second divorce and I hit the menopause. And my dad died on my 50th birthday of a heart attack. I mean, you couldn't make it up, seriously. And I genuinely was like going to God or whoever, no, 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 no. I came through all that stuff. Look, I came through all that stuff. Why am I now in this place? I can't
Is it
believe.
the men? Is it the men you pick?
Well, that's a very interesting thing you should say. I've never been in any way critical of either of my two exes, and I don't talk about it really. What I talk about is my learning. The important thing is whatever happens to you, particularly with something like divorce, um, it takes two people. And even if you're almost like the injured party, if you like,
Mm,
you have to say to yourself, how did I show up in this relationship? Or how would I like to show up in a new relationship? And so you
mm,
do have to do the work on yourself. You can't go into kind of all men are bad or all other people are bad or
Mm,
I've been so unlucky. You just can't do that. And I did that. I had to go and do the work on myself after the second divorce. I'm in my 50s. I'm thinking, okay, I think I need to really do some work in this area. Not because I kind of felt it was entirely my fault or their fault, or I wasn't playing a blame game. I just didn't want to go there
mm,
again, you know?
yeah.
Because, like you say, it's really painful and it's not fun when a relationship breaks.
You come across um, as a woman who now kind of like thinks, oh well, I've been through all this, been through all that, and you're strong and everything, and now you can laugh about it, can you?
Well, I still have bad days, Steve, like everybody. In
Yeah,
fact,
yeah,
last year, my partner and so I am now in the best relationship of my life, I'm happy to say. And we've both been married and divorced twice. And I'm in my 50s, he's in his 60s, but and I've moved in with him only last year. But we were ill last year. I believe we had COVID. I think we had long COVID. And, we're in lockdown. We haven't actually lived together. It was a bit of an experiment. We're not feeling great, neither of us. We're really not very well. There's stuff going on. And, there are days we wake up, and I don't have some sort of recipe for perfection. I don't have some recipe where every day I wake up and it's perfect. But what I do have is resilience in bucket loads. And what I do have is an unbreakable faith that this too shall pass.
yeah,
And I like to refer to myself as a weeble. You remember those toys? Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, and they used to have like a weight in the bottom. And
oh,
you
yeah,
hit them and they wobble, but
yeah,
they self-righted after a while. And
yeah,
the way I look at it is I've always been a weeble, but all of the things that have happened to me and everything I've come through and my own inner strength and grit and faith and all of it, mindset, of course, massive, massive, massive mindset issue, means that I have a lot more ballast. I have a lot more weight now. So I'm still a weeble, but something wobbles me and I just go, and
mm,
I'm straight up again.
yeah,
And I know that. And when you know that, that gives you enormous faith that this too shall pass and that things will be okay. Not that every day will be great or you'll breeze through everything or never again will you feel fed up or annoyed with yourself or annoyed with somebody else, because that's being human. But
mm,
it's about that, you're right, being in that place, and I am in that place 100% and with absolute authenticity and congruency, that I know how to get through, and I know that whatever happens, I will get through.
good, good, and that's what you need to do. By the way, have you still got the number for the divorce lawyer? Sorry, I should have. Sorry, sorry, sorry.
I actually, it's funny you should ask, because I ended up back in Nottingham and I had to. And somebody said to me, "Oh, there's a divorce lawyer called Rupert Bear," and I thought, I I have to have a lawyer called Rupert Bear. What's not to love? And I actually went to that company, but unfortunately, Rupert Bear had retired. But there is actually a law firm, and I think they're now called Rupert Bear Murray Davis. But even then, even in the middle of going through a second divorce, I had enough of a sense of humour that I thought, if my lawyer could be called Rupert Bear, there's going to be something to make me smile every day.
Can I just touch? Sorry,
That's true. That is true. Google it.
sorry. Um, can I just go back a bit about your PR firm?
Yeah.
When you did your big PR company, what was that? What was that about? Because you know, pe- many people probably listening will say now, yeah, but what kind of PR was it? Was it because PR relations are so different in it? I used to have an agent, when I used to do TV, radio, and stuff.
So I cut my teeth in the 80s. I fell into PR. I didn't even know what it was. Went for an interview to PR, and I said to somebody, what is it? So times were different. I'd always wanted to be a journalist, and that was what I thought I was going to do. And then I PR
A
within.
journalist. Oh
Yeah,
no. Oh no.
that
Please
was
stay
what.
back.
Well, when I was at school, when I was at school, that was
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to be a journalist. And it just didn't happen.
Oh,
And I fell into PR. I ended up in theatre PR at first, which what's not to love? I was in the West End dealing with West End productions and theatre. It was my absolute love. It was great. The hours were long, the pay was absolutely appalling, and I loved it. And then I ended up in publishing, then I ended up being made redundant. And somebody said to me, right, there's only one PR company you should work for. If you work there, you can work anywhere. And that was Lynn Franks, which Absolutely Fabulous is based on, the TV program with
yeah.
Lumley and Jennifer Saunders. And I worked there, and it was insane. It was insane. I'm a girl from a grocer's daughter. I lived above the shop in my early years until they pulled the place down for slum clearance in Nottinghamshire. And I went to a comprehensive school, and I do not come from a privileged background. And I ended up working in this company where day two I'm on the Orient Express, and then I'm working for the Rolling Stones, and fashion designers are everywhere. It was
Mm,
just crazy, but it was really hard work,
mm,
and not very glamorous when you were actually there. So I came up through the 80s doing that, and I worked in advertising and marketing. Anyway, my own PR company, again, I got made redundant for the third time in my career, and I was only 30. And I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I've got a redundancy payment. I had a couple of clients who said, we love what you do PR wise for us. We'll give you a 6-month contract. So I started in my spare bedroom in my flat in London with my basset hound Rosie as my first member of staff, with really horrible furniture that we bought from some second-hand place up near the Dartford Tunnel. I always remember. And a year later, I had like 3 members of staff, and 9 years later, I sold the business when we had a 1.3 million pound turnover. So we had Air Miles, the BA subsidiary. We had McCain, who do chips and potato products. We had some financial stuff. We had a lot of stuff. What was interesting is I became the go-to agency for the personal development world. So I did the PR for Tony Robbins. I did the PR for Edward de Bono, Brandon Bays, Robert Holden. So all of these, which in the 90s all seemed to be a bit woo-woo. I remember my mum going, so you're working for this 6'7" American who walks on fire, dear? Maybe don't tell the neighbours, I it was very ahead of its time, but of course that meant that time I got into NLP, I got into mindset, I understood, how you could change your life by changing how you thought and what your limiting beliefs
mm,
were, and because Tony Robbins and the fire walk is really an analogy to say if you can walk on fire, you can do anything. Okay, that's why we do it. And when you do that person's PR, you really, really do get that message. So
mm.
I'm very proud of the company. We won the best, in fact, that's the award behind me. You can see that PR, that's the PR Week Award, which is like the Oscar of our industry for my
All
company.
right. Well done.
And when we won it, thank you, not just because we were a good, well managed, profitable company, but they said that we had such an ethical approach to our clients and also to our staff.
Mm,
And so I ran the kind of company I'd have wanted to work for, really. And I didn't work for tobacco. I didn't work for big pharma. I didn't work for anything that didn't sit well with me,
mm,
which gained me a bit of a reputation about being a bit of a maverick in that business. But I'm glad because I walk my talk. So
mm,
yeah, that was my background, and of course it was very successful, and I did get the trappings of success towards the end, the big house in London and all the rest of it. But I worked 80 to 100-hour weeks for kind of 10 years, and
well,
it really
that's what you've done, and that's
takes a
and
toll.
yeah, and at the end of the day, because you worked hard, you get things. If you
Yeah,
don't work hard, you don't get nothing.
you did. What I got wrong, Steve, was I didn't always get the balance right. That was what I got wrong. I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked, and I didn't really get the balance right. And that is really why I now help people, particularly as a coach, because a lot of them are really very successful business people, earning six figures, quite a lot
Mm.
of them, but they are heading for the burnout. They are heading for the breakdown. They are heading for the divorce. They are
Yeah,
heading, and I like to say, I'm going to head you off at the pass. Let's work together.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know what it feels like when you go over the ravine and you go down it. Let's
yeah,
not go there. It's too big a price to pay for the success. Okay,
yeah,
so I'm with you. Hard work, grocer's daughter, grew up doing that. You don't get anything without all of that. But equally, I think people get so caught up in the doing more to have more hamster wheel
mm.
that they forget about enjoying the journey along the way and having balance.
Of course, yeah. Me and Michelle, my wife, we've we had some issues with some PR companies because some PR companies are not all. One particular one we had a problem with, where they were, kind of like they were more interested in money and not doing the job.
Oh, there's some shocking things. I mean, for a
Oh,
while I was a consultant, and I would say to people, "Why don't you run your PR proposal past me, and I'll
yeah,
pick holes in it, and then let me meet them and see if they're actually going to deliver what they're saying."
yeah,
You get that in every industry, don't you, Steve?
yeah, yeah.
You get good and bad in every industry. There's some really good PR companies. I mean, today I'm sure, and advertising agencies, and there's some who, maybe not so.
But it's embarrassing because when me and my wife went on to this morning, we one of the people said, "Who's your agent then?" And when I mentioned my agent, they looked up and thought, "Steve, please." And that was it. You know what I mean? Then the message was there. It was saying you need to get somebody different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I do, and look, I'm having such an interesting life, Steve. As I say, I've stood in human waste in the slums of Ethiopia with people who are begging on the streets, and I've lived in the Bahamas, and my kids went to school with millionaires and billionaires.
Mm, mm,
So and I've done celebrity PR. I've worked for the royal family. I
mm.
did the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. I did the handover from Prince Philip to Prince Edward. My first husband went to Gordonston, so he kind of came from that set, if you like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have rubbed shoulders with the poorest of the poor and some of the richest of the rich. And the bottom line is, Steve, and you know this as well as I do, there's good and bad people at every class and every stage and every creed, colour, description.
I
And
know.
it's about what's in your heart and in your soul and how you live your life and how you treat other people, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, see, the trouble is, it's like with this. I'll tell you straight before I finish. When I started this in July, everybody was all over it, and it was like, as I said, it was for people who had mental health and people who was lonely and stuck in. And then someone said to me, "We need to make it more bigger, Steve." So I said, "Okay." We put it on radio, so we'll have it on radio too. So at the moment, we put it on radio, and it went bigger. And and then we thought, oh, we get a sponsor, and so we had a sponsor in. But then when we were looking, then when people were saying, "Oh yeah, I'll be able to help you with this," because we're self-funded, see, we are.
Mm.
And the trouble is, people don't realise that it costs something to run it.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sure.
It
Yeah.
does. It costs. It costs. And I was saying to these people, I was saying, okay, I'll set up a GoFund page. Can you help out? And they go, oh yeah, we'll do it. But it never happened.
No.
So But
Yeah.
that's what people are, see. And the trouble is, we're not all in the same boat. And at this particular time when we're going through all the COVID and everything, you know, all I'm trying to do is get the message out there that we need to help people and make life more easier.
So important. I mean, loneliness will shorten your life more than smoking 20 cigarettes a day.
Mm,
Loneliness is, a killer really, and people, we need connection. We are
mm,
interconnected tribal people. Connection is our number one thing. You reject
mm,
a baby, it's not going to live.
mm,
How do we punish people? We put them into solitary confinement, we maroon
mm,
them, we exile them. It's all
mm,
about disconnection. And here you've got people who probably already maybe housebound or lonely or in a difficult situation, and with everything that's going on, it's making it so much, 10 times worse. So I really think what you're doing is fantastic, and that's why, I'm happy to
mm,
turn up and talk about these
mm,
things. And
mm.
if people go on my website, I've got lots of free stuff on my
Yeah,
resources.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, so about your website. So, what is your website?
Oh, right. It's www.rosalynpalmer.com, just how my name is spelt. And
Where
I've got,
can they get your book? Where can
you
they
can
get
get my
it?
book either through my website or on Amazon.
Yeah,
And that's Reset, A Blueprint for a Better Life. I'm also a contributing author to 3 other books: Ignite Your Female Leadership, Ignite for Female Change Makers, and Ignite for Women. And they're all #1 Amazon bestsellers.
I know they are, and but I know they are, and I was going to mention that next time because I was going to get you back on and talk
Okay,
about
well, we
those.
won't talk about them
Oh
now.
no, 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 no! It's okay now. It's okay.
The
You,
genie's out the bottle. But yeah, if they go to the website, you can get me. But what I'm saying is there are some freebies because, look, I earn a living, clearly, my day
yeah,
job, I'm a therapist and a coach. And I get that not everybody can afford that. So I try to offer as many, resources and as much help on my blogs and everything as possible because I'm passionate about good mental health because I know what it feels like when you're not there.
yeah, and that's what I was gonna, because I was gonna get my wife because she does all my dates and stuff like that and the bookings for me. But I was gonna say to you next time, can we talk about about the books, the free books, and about mental health?
Yes, absolutely. Any topic you want, I'll talk about it. I
Yeah,
mean,
because I think
clearly.
I I think you've been through quite a lot, and I'm very sorry that you've been through all that. I really am.
It's okay,
But
really.
you come up through it,
Yeah,
you know, and and sometimes it does take slowly, slowly goes. But we all go through really bad times in our life. Someone said to me the other day, Steve, I feel like I'm at a crossroads in my life. And I'm thinking, where are you to? And they said, well, I'm in the center of this crossroads in my life, and I don't know where to turn. Right?
I, I was talking in another group, and this woman said to me, and I'd not heard this before, and I really like it. And I said, oh, I'm going to steal that. And she said, you turned your mess into a message. And I
Well,
thought, that's it. So these things I've come through, and okay, they might look like a mess, but whatever happens, they're now a message, and they're a message to help other people. So you know what? It's time.
well done, well done. I'll tell you what. Thank you very much for your time.
You're
I,
welcome. It's
I
been
know
a
you're
pleasure.
I know you're a busy young lady.
Thank you.
I know you're a busy young lady. And if you ever want a divorce lawyer, I know a good one. It's
No,
it's called Rupert the Bear.
I'm in a lovely, I'm in a lovely place now. Thank you. I'm happy. I'm in the countryside. We've got sheep. We've got chickens. We've got turkeys. We've got dogs and cats, and I'm very happy. So
So good, good. You're living in the countryside. Now,
yeah.
what's your dress? I need a turkey for Christmas dinner.
No, no, they're pets. They're pets.
Anyway,
Thank you,
thank you,
Steve.
Rosalyn.
Thank
God
you for
bless
having
you.
me on your show, and
Thank
you're
you.
doing a great job for everybody.
Thank you, Rosalyn. God bless.
You're
Bye
welcome.
bye.
Bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. and that was Rosalyn. And what a lovely lady. And don't forget to get a book and look her up on Amazon. Okay, see you later at 7 o'clock. Be there, be square.